Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
Please join us in welcoming our speaker, Ron B.
Everybody, my name is Ron. I'm an alcoholic. Hi. Well, that was an introduction page. So thank you for inviting me. I know so many people in this room, my friends and best friends and former sponsor, and thank you all so much for being here for me. It's so good for me to know I'm in a very non-judgmental place. And welcome to the new people who raised their hand, and welcome to the new people who didn't raise their hand, and welcome to the not so new people who should have raised their hand. So I have about 35 minutes. So I've been to lots of AA meetings. It's protocol, I suppose, to tell you that I have a sobriety date, September 17, 1984. I have a home group. It's the Pacific Group. And I have a sponsor, the landlord, Clancy I. I live in Encino. I work in Sherman Oaks. I go to meetings on the west side. I kind of do not have low mileage sobriety. My story starts a long way from here. I was born in a small town in Michigan called Kalamazoo. And I was a nice Jewish boy born into a Jewish family. So in rooms like this, at podiums like this, I'm the Jew from Kalamazoo. And I've heard all the stories here that, you know, the guy who says, I drank a fifth of whiskey and I stole a car and I was only 6. And the people who grew up living in a drawer and that's not my story. There was plenty to eat, and I had clothing, and yet from the gate there was something that was different, and I don't know what that was. I didn't know what that was. I got here from drinking alcohol. I drank a lot of it, but the book that I read says that alcohol was a symptom of an underlying problem. And when I was little, whatever that was different, I just knew it. And what was even worse is that I knew that you knew. And then I knew that you knew that I knew. So I'm walking around the earth as just this little guy thinking about what I think you think I should think, what I think you think I should say, what I think you think I should do, and what I think you think I should be. And that's a big load for someone who's 9 years old. And I don't know why I'm different. And I'm growing up in the Midwest in the 50s. And my idea of what a man should be comes from watching television and the movies, and I know what a man is. A man is big, and he's strong, and he gets in fights, and he always has a woman with him. Clark Kent had Lois Lane, and Roy Rogers had Dale Evans, and my hero, James Bond, Sean Connery, Agent 007, who always had these exotic women with exotic names like Pussy Galore. And here I am, this little Jewish kid looking in the mirror, and I'm thinking, I'm not computing with what I think I ought to be. And suddenly I'm in junior high school, and that's a big deal because It's the first time that you get to go to gym class, and that's a big deal because that's the first time you put on a gym uniform, and that's a really big deal if you remember, because it's the first time that you take off your clothes in front of your classmates. And so I'm in that locker room, and I'm naked, and I do what you did. I peeked, and I looked at what they had, and I looked at what I had, and they had what I wanted. I'm not sure why body hair is so important to someone who's pubescent, but it was, and I didn't. And for whatever reason, I had a feeling that day. And I suppose this is a good time to say it. We talk a lot in AA about guilt. Guilt is about an action taken that I shouldn't have taken. I can do something about that, just don't do it again. Or it's about an action not taken that should have been taken. I can do something about that, just do it next time. The feeling that I had that day in the locker room, the feeling that I identify as the feeling like me, was not about something that I did or didn't do. It wasn't something that went from the outside in. It was a feeling from the inside out. It was the feeling of shame. Shame about who I was, what I was. I hadn't earned it. I didn't know what to do about it. For me, it was a stain that I couldn't wash away, that I couldn't talk away, that I couldn't act away. And that's the feeling of me. I didn't die from it. But I withdrew. Even as a kid, I withdrew. I'm the kid who didn't go to the junior prom. I didn't ask anybody. I was so afraid she'd say no. It was easier to just stay home. I didn't go to the senior prom. I didn't ask anybody. I knew she'd say no, so I just stayed home. And that's the way I lived my life. I just ran from it all. I hid from it all. I kind of built this little lonely personality, and I graduated from high school, and I went to the University of Michigan, and I joined a fraternity. And up to that point, I didn't smoke, I didn't drink, I didn't do anything bad. I was this good Jewish kid just trying to get the approval of the world, study hard, get good grades, and it would all be okay. Somehow my parents would love me, my grandparents would love me, the synagogue would elect me to something, and this feeling that I had inside would go away, and it didn't work. You know, I was an A student and it didn't work. I played the trumpet in the marching band, it didn't work. Nothing that I did worked, and now I'm a member of a fraternity. And I remember walking down Washtenaw Avenue in Ann Arbor, Michigan on a hot August night with the humidity about 800%. And so it's so hot and it's so wet, and I'm walking down the street and I'm going to this party. This is a beautiful fraternity house. I remembered it had couches and chairs and lamps, and I'm going to have a good time. I can't go. What am I going to do? Who am I going to talk to? No one's going to want to talk to me. I'll dance. I don't know how to dance. No one will want to dance with me. I don't want to go. I have to go. I'm afraid to go. Please let me go. And this deal's going on, So it's going on in my head, and I'm walking. I'm walking up the stairs. What am I going to do? I don't want to go in. Please let me go in. And I'm exhausted. They open the door, and I can't believe what I'm seeing. There's no couches, there's no chairs, there's no lamps. It's all gone. And in its place, there are bales of hay, and there's a chicken flying around, and there's a cow in the living room, and they called it a barn party. And there's bluegrass music playing, and everyone who walked in got this tall brown bag, inside of which was this tall green bottle with a beige label. I remember it even now. And it said, Boone's Farm Apple Wine.
Yep.
So I'm in there, and I'm from, I do, it's at what, vintage 230. So I unscrewed the top because I'm watching what everyone else is doing, and I took a little sip of that. I'm from Kalamazoo, Michigan. I've been on hay rides. I know what apple cider is. It just tasted like apple cider to me, and it was so hot, so I tried a little more, and then I tried a little more. The big book of Alcoholics Anonymous say that we alcoholics drink because of the effect produced by alcohol, the sense of ease and comfort that comes almost at once from taking a few drinks. I don't know about you guys. So some of you drank and you went up, and some of you drank and you went down. And if you're a tweaker in here, you drank and you went sideways. When I drank, I don't know what the feeling was. I only know what the feeling wasn't. For a moment, just for a moment, I didn't feel like me. And I just thought that was the be-all and the end-all, that little kid in the locker room who I could just never shed. I couldn't get rid of that feeling, was gone. He was gone for an instant. And man, if they could only bottle it, they do. And so that was it. So my favorite TV show is Taxi, and my favorite character is Jim Ignatowski. You remember Jim? Jim was the preppy guy, kind of dressed like this, not a black shirt. He wore a white shirt and a rep stripe tie, and he ate an Alice B. Toklas to marijuana brownie, and he became instantly a stoner for life. That did not happen to me from drinking alcohol that night at the barn party in Ann Arbor, Michigan. But I liked it. And I drank on the weekends, and it worked for me. I drank recreationally, I drank socially, I drank often, and little did I know that drinking socially would lead to drinking medically to help me feel better, to drinking chronically, to drinking alcoholically. And our book talks about many of us could have stopped if we really would have wanted to early enough. I didn't want to stop. It worked. I hear some of you say, oh, my worst day sober is better than my best day drinking. Not me. I wouldn't have drank as much as I drank if it wasn't working. It worked great. It worked great for a long, long time. The problem was, that long after everyone else had left the party, I was still there drinking. And it wasn't working at all. It became a lifeline. So somehow I graduated from college, and I graduated from the University of Michigan Law School, and I came to Los Angeles to practice law, and I'm a litigator in downtown Los Angeles, and a strange thing happens. I'm winning cases. I mean, I think I'm a fraud. I've always thought I was a fraud. I've always figured that if I could just make you believe what I wanted to make you believe, that maybe you wouldn't ask me to leave. My biggest fear, you'd ask me to leave. So I'm winning cases, and I'm not feeling good about the thrill of victory. I'm feeling like I dodged a bullet. Thank God, I didn't lose that one. And then I won another one, and thank God I won that one. And mentally, I'm thinking the odds are getting bad. Sooner or later, it's going to happen. Normal people ski down a Black Diamond run for the first time, and they're scared, and they make it down there, and then they do it again, and they get confidence. It becomes easier. And for a guy like me, it doesn't get easier, it gets harder. The more I win, the more I'm sure I'm going to lose. And then you're going to catch me, and then this little house of cards that's my life, it's all going to come tumbling down. And then you're going to do what I've always been afraid you're going to do. You're going to see me for who I really am, which is nothing. I'm a shell, I'm a fraud, I'm a sham, and I already know it. And now you're going to know it, and you're going to run me out of town. And I'm going to be this laughingstock known to the world as the person who I really think I am. And that's just such a hard way to live. And the only thing that made me feel better was when I drank. And then after a while, what I snorted. And then after a while, what I smoked when I snorted, when I drank. And so I have a profound respect for our singleness of purpose. But part of my story is the additional stuff that I did. And it's not different, it's the same. It was an enhancer. So I always had a bottle of alcohol, and I'll fast forward the story. I became a partner at a major law firm, and I'm living at the beach, and there's 2 cars, and there's a view of the ocean, and there's first class travel, and staying in suites, and who's who in America, and all of this stuff that made my parents so proud of me. From the outside, you would think, I got it all. And on the inside, I keep thinking, when's it going to end? When are they going to find out? I have this sense of impending doom. I can't shake it. I can't even drink that away. I have to, put myself anesthetized into oblivion, passing out, to somehow make that feeling go away. And it's the only thing. It doesn't matter who I'm dating. It doesn't matter what the money in the bank is. It doesn't matter. None of it matters. And you know what happened? It's an old story in AA, and I've got a wife, and I thought she was going to make up for all the things that I wasn't. She was blonde and blue-eyed and from Greenwich, Connecticut, and if y'all could just look at her and see, I have someone like that. I must be okay. Judge me by who I'm with. Judge me for what I do. Judge me for what I drive. Judge me for how much money I have. Judge me for a news story. Judge me for anything but who I really am. And that was me. And I come home from a speaking tour, and she's gone. And the stuff is gone. And before long, the firm asked me to leave. And they say, you're a great lawyer, but there's something wrong, and we don't know what's wrong with you, but we don't want you here anymore. And I'm Ron the lawyer and Ron Christine's husband, and I'm no longer Ron Christine's husband, and I'm no longer the partner of the law firm, and the only thing that I have is what I can drink out of a bottle and smoke out of a bass pipe, and that was the beginning. That was not the end. So the police liberated my apartment from me, and I became an outdoorsman. So I went from this kind of penthouse place to a closer view of the sand, and it was okay. I could watch the sun peek him through my bedroom windshield. So, and before it was over, I'm 117 pounds. I have pyorrhea oozing from my mouth. I hadn't bathed in as long as I could remember. And I used to be a partner of a downtown law firm. And I have some Cuban people looking for me, and I have the police looking for me, and nobody wanted to give me a party. It was the bottom. I was filled with terror, bewilderment, frustration, and despair. The beginning of chapter 11, A Vision for You, is my favorite part of the book. It's poetry. It describes what became of my life. And I was indeed hopeless. I've had lots go on in sobriety. I've never had that feeling that I had at the end. It was sheer hopelessness. I had no belief that it could ever change. And I ultimately was sent into treatment. I got out in 30 days at maybe 7 o'clock at night. By 8 o'clock, I'm drinking in Charlie Brown's, and by 10 o'clock, I'm at the dealer's house, and I'm drinking and I'm using. And the next day, I was taken to this clubhouse in Canoga Park, California. I had been rescued by my Aunt Pearl and Uncle Saul in Canoga Park, California. They got me into treatment, and they brought me into their home. So now this former law partner is sleeping in the guest room at Aunt Pearl and Uncle Saul's house. And I go to the Hole in the Sky Club where some old coot is standing at a microphone, you know, no teeth and no shave and bad clothes, and saying something inspiring like, if you want what we have. And I'm looking at this guy thinking, I don't know what you have. I don't want what you have. I hope I don't catch what you have. And even though I'd been drinking, you know, they do this in the clubhouses. Anyone sober 30 days? I have. Let me go take a chip. And so I took a chip for being 30 days clean and sober. I was about 30 minutes clean and sober. And I told you what I thought you wanted to hear, because I had no place to go, and I knew I had to lie to you, because if I told you the truth in AA, you'd ask me to leave. I know it. You're just like everybody else. I'm not going to listen again. I'm not going to believe that 12 steps on the wall, you know, are going to apply to everybody, particularly to a guy like me. It's like fortune cookies or horoscopes. It's not going to work. I already played the game. I went to college. I went to law school. I played that game doing what you said I should do. I was successful, and I lost. It didn't work. I wasn't going to trust you again. I just couldn't leave. Not because I wanted to stay here. I just had no place else to go. So I told you what I thought you wanted to hear. And for about 6 months, I'm going to AA during the day, and I'm drinking and using at night. And my life is a lie. It's a lie during the day. It's a lie at night. And even the lie was too much for me. And so I wake up one morning in Aunt Pearl and Uncle Sal's house. And I don't know why it was different. I hadn't been arrested the night before. I had been arrested, but not the night before. I hadn't soiled myself the night before. I had done that, just not the night before. I hadn't been locked up in another type of facility the night before. That happened too, just nothing dramatic happened the night before. I just woke up in the morning and I had what Father Leo Booth calls the moment. In AA, we sometimes call it the moment of clarity. It's just the moment. It was the time when I knew I'm an alcoholic. The lie doesn't work for me anymore. It might still work on you, but it wasn't working on me. I knew it. Something was different. And I don't know why it was different. I don't know how it was different. I only knew that it was different. And I don't know what happened, but I heard your voice. So I knew what to do because I'd been to these dumb meetings while I was drinking for 6 months. It worked, by the way. The fact that I didn't get sober for those 6 months, don't think it doesn't work. That guy who keeps coming back here, I got a day, I got 2 days, don't throw him away. It just hasn't worked yet. Thank God you didn't throw me away. So I wake up and I go take a shower and I go to a meeting and I go to lunch and I go to a meeting and I go to dinner and I go to a meeting. Then I go home and I go to sleep and I wake up. Then I've got 1 day sober for the first time in years. The miracle worked. So I did it again. I got 2 days, I got 5 days, I got a week, I got a month. I've got 3 months. I've got 5 months. You think I have 11 months. So you want to give me a birthday cake. It's going to be 12 months. Al taught me rigorous honesty. Tell the truth and wait 6 months, or lie and take the cake. Tell the truth or lie. Tell the truth or lie. I lied. I took the cake. Of course. Of course. I'm a liar. I'm playing to you. I took a dirty cake. You think that's funny? I did the same thing the next year. Took me 3 years in Alcoholics Anonymous to trust you enough that you wouldn't throw me away to tell you the truth. That's sad, huh? That's really sad. That's who I am. I'm so afraid. I'm really just outside this thin veneer of, look at how poised he is. This guy's rocking and rolling. I'm just this scared little boy who's afraid you're going to throw him away. That you're going to find out who I really am. And so you taught me some things that in early sobriety. I had a sponsor and I said, Bill, I have no self-worth. And he said in those loving tones that a sponsor uses, you don't do anything worthwhile, get a job. So Aunt Pearl and Uncle Sol to the rescue. They had an abandoned factory where they had one red wall, one blue wall, one green wall, one yellow wall. And they let me set up a little table, a little desk in this lobby of an abandoned factory inhabited by thousands of water beetles. And I tacked up my diplomas in this lobby. I didn't have a telephone, not to worry. So I didn't have a file cabinet. That was okay. I had no files, and and I didn't need any files because I didn't have any clients. And so I would just go, I put on a little tie and I would go there in the morning and I would sit at my little table and I would cry. What had happened? How could this be? And then I'd go to a noon meeting at the Hole in the Sky Club, and then I'd go back in the afternoon and I'd just sit there and cry, and then I'd have a little dinner and I'd go to another meeting, and I heard this kind of silly stuff like suit up and show up and don't quit before the miracle, and I'm going to this abandoned factory and nothing's happening, and I'm taking sponsorial direction from an unemployed engineer living in a camper shell, and this guy had nothing except he was sober. He was sober a long time, and my plans didn't work, so I was just willing. I didn't even know that that's what it was at the time, but that's what it was at the time. I was just willing. Tell me what to do and I'll do it. It doesn't matter if it makes sense to me or not. I'll just do it. And so I didn't drink, and I did that, and one day there's a knock on the factory door, and I'll call him A.A. Ralph. And A.A. Ralph had a problem. And the problem, thank you, the problem was that his son was visiting him, and they were taking a shower together, and he was peeing in the shower, and some of the urine splattered, and the Department of Children and Family Services was going to try and eliminate his visitation. So my first time in court in years was the pee in the shower case, and I went to court wearing a borrowed green 3-piece polyester suit and bell-bottom trousers. Tell me I'm hot. So we did okay. That was the beginning. I had done major antitrust cases and securities fraud cases and international banking cases, and now I'm back in court on the pee in the shower case. And then A.A. Ralph told somebody, and there's a knock on the door, and it was someone about doing something about a will. And do you know anything about doing a will? I said, no. And can you help me? And I said, I'll try. So off I am to the Van Nuys Law Library, kind of swallowing a little humility and trying to learn how to do that. And so that worked out okay. And then there's a knock on the door. And it's some lady, and she says, my kids aren't eating. Do you know anything about family law and child support? And I said, no. Who would ever want to do that? And she says, I really need your help. Can you help me? And I said, I don't know. I said, I'll try. So I'm off to the Van Nuys Law Library trying to learn a little bit about family law. And we went to court, and I thought we did okay. It's just a little case, and we just got her a little bit more for a real little client. And we come out of court, and she's crying. And I think, oh my God, I know I screwed it up. Of course I screwed it up. I always screw it up. What's the matter? And she said, my children will eat. Thank you so much. And she kissed me. And we lock a lot of stuff away behind the pain and the shame that we experience in Alcoholics Anonymous. And we're never quite sure what it is that's going to unlock it. And for me, that's what unlocked it. There was a shift that day, and I never would have believed it, and I never would have expected it. But I knew what I wanted to do. I knew what I was supposed to do. I just knew it. And it felt right. I didn't need to be a partner at that big law firm. I knew exactly what I wanted to do. And so I started doing family law, the last thing on the block that I ever would have imagined. And I had 2 clients, and then I had 4 clients, and then I had to get a telephone, and then I had 8 clients, and I had to hire someone to answer the telephone, and I'm still working in this factory, and I had to have a little typewriter to type letters because I don't type so well, and now I have 16 clients, and it built one day at a time. And the cases got bigger, and then I needed some help, and through that one day at a time stuff, I got how we do stuff around here. It's as though someone had dumped 2 tons of sand in front of my front door, and that's the wreckage of my life. And they handed me a teaspoon, and they said, move these 2 tons of sand with a teaspoon from your front yard to the backyard. That's impossible. We all know that's impossible. So what we normally do is we don't even try. We don't start. We just throw down that spoon and close the door and try and pretend that sand isn't there, except it haunts us. We know it's there. And you don't let that happen in Alcoholics Anonymous. You taught me that's not what we do in Alcoholics Anonymous. You say, pick up that spoon and move 1 teaspoon of sand from the front yard to the backyard one day at a time. And you promised me something. You promised me that if I move that 1 teaspoon of sand from the front yard to the backyard one day at a time, and if I don't drink, and if I don't die, one day I would open up that door in the front yard and there would be no sand. And I would go to the back door and I would open it up and there would be 2 tons of sand that I had moved from the front yard to the backyard with a teaspoon one day at a time. And my life is a testament that is exactly the way that it works in AA. And I owe it all to you. That is exactly what has happened in my life for me today. My life has been rebuilt on the outside. And if you're interested, thank you for calling me yesterday, Paige. kind of broke my anonymity there. And I'm so happy for it. I was happy to be of service to you. So what has happened in my life, this corporate lawyer turned street urchin, today I'm the senior partner of a family law firm. I mean, how does that happen? How does that happen? And there have been so many other things. So I'll tell you my biggest struggle in sobriety. One of them was just getting sober. The second struggle that I had was being honest with you about my date. I kind of started doing a lot of speaking after a while and made a big splash in Alcoholics Anonymous. And around 15, 16 years sober, I found myself feeling exactly the way that I felt when I was lying about my sobriety date. Somehow I felt that I had become a fraud again in Alcoholics Anonymous, that it was all on the outside and it wasn't on the inside. And thank God for the long-timers around here. You taught me that I can begin again in Alcoholics Anonymous. I can go back to the basics without taking a drink. It is not necessary to take a drink to start over. And I learned that here. I learned about going to new meetings and refreshing my sobriety and having a rebirth of sobriety without drinking and starting over in the steps, and that's okay. Then about going to a meeting and being anonymous within a meeting and asking for a mop. Asking, let me mop something. Don't give me a big job, give me a little job. Please don't say my name to anybody. Just let me do a little job. Let me be a worker among workers. I feel better. My brain has always said, be up front. Be up front. They won't ask you to leave if you're up front. And what I've learned is that be a worker among workers. Be anonymous. Just be one of the group. And be in the middle. It's hard to fall off if you're in the middle. And then I came to a realization, and it was awful. All of you people kept talking about finding a higher power and finding a God of your understanding that you seem to believe in, and I didn't. And so I go on this quest for God. It's a search for God. I can't find God. Not the way that you people do. And how am I going to do that? So I know I'll find the Jewish God. You know, the guy with the stick and the waters pass, and you see Charlton Heston at the Red Sea, and it didn't work for me, the Jewish God. So then I tried the Christian God, the Sistine ceiling. He's got holding one here and reaching out, and the spark of life goes out from a. That didn't work for me, and so I tried an Eastern philosophy. I tried to take all these other people's views of God, theological views of God, and tried to make them work for me. I tried to cram them into my heart, and nothing was working. So I was sponsoring this guy, happened to be Catholic. His name was John, and John couldn't find God either, and I don't know how I knew to, maybe Al taught me. I said to him, take a little piece of paper with you, and when you find God today, when you experience God, just write down what that is. And so he was at the beach, and he heard the power of the waves and the power of the ocean, and he wrote that down, and that was his experience of God that day. And the next day, he saw his little girl sleeping, and he wrote that down. That was his experience of God that day. And so it went, and he experienced God and then allowed himself to build a conception of God from his own experience. I love the story of the blind man who lives in the blind people's house who's going to go to the zoo and do show and tell. So he's going to go see the elephant. So he goes and visits the elephant, and he comes back and he tells all the blind people that an elephant is this long thing that swings back and forth with like a vacuum cleaner at the end, and that's his conception of an elephant based on his experience. So that was the trunk. And he goes back the next day, the next week, and then he comes back and says, nope, I was wrong. An elephant is this trunk that swings in the front and the squiggly thing at the other end that swings back and forth. That was a tail. And then he does it again, and now the elephant has a trunk and a tail and a leg, and then a trunk and a tail and a leg and an ear, and a trunk and a tail and 4 legs and an ear, and a trunk and a tail and 4 legs and 2 ears, and a trunk and a tail and 4 legs and 2 ears and 2 eyes. His conception of the elephant grows with his experience. Each time he experiences it again, his conception of the elephant changes and it grows. The elephant has never changed. The elephant is just what the elephant is. He was unable to have a full conception of it until he experienced it. And it dawns on me, what if we can find God that way? What if instead of taking Buzz's conception of God, I just have my own experience and allow it to come little by little by little? so it becomes mine, and I own it because I have found it in my life and I've lived it. And indeed, that's what I did. And so when I read those words in the book, the central fact of our existence is the absolute certainty that our Creator has entered into our hearts and lives in a way that is indeed miraculous. Words that I scoffed at when I read it. It is, in fact, the central fact. It is what our sobriety is based on. It's what my sobriety is based on. So I've been so blessed because of you that all these things on the outside have come back to me. And I have found a God in Alcoholics Anonymous, and I love my sobriety. I cherish my sobriety. I will do anything to preserve my sobriety. I know that without that, I have nothing. But I began the story by talking about the way that I was eroded from the inside out, not the outside in. A stain that could never go away. I never had a hope that that stain would go away. I just figured I could blot it out with alcohol, or blot it out with drugs, or blot it out with money, or blot it out with prestige. And then I thought maybe I can blot it out by staying busy in Alcoholics Anonymous. And a strange thing happened on the way to the party. That stain is gone. And I don't know how it happened. I don't know why it happened. I just know the method by which we can make that happen. So if you come here today the way that I came to Alcoholics Anonymous, with feelings of such shame that you could never tell anyone those dark secrets, those things that are so haunting in the middle of the night, the thing that makes you think, I will never be able to breathe free again. I promise you that if you stay here and do the work, if you do the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, find a sponsor and find a loving God, you too will walk free. God bless.
I think we got a great talk going on here. Thanks for watching the channel. Taper Dave here. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with. And it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs. Long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst and one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, out, in, up, down, and then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. changes. You can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right. But I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.